Okay, everyone, welcome to tonight's class. We're going to do something a little different tonight. I mean, we're still kind of in general talking about nutrition and gut health and food, but we're going to talk a lot about the way we think about food, the way that maybe we were brought up, the things that we were told by our parents, our belief system around food. And all of those things can be just as important and have just as much of an impact in how we feel in our health as what we put in our body, or what we put in our mouth or what we don't. So I'm really excited about this topic, and I'm so glad you're here. This is not as sexy of a topic as maybe talking about pain and inflammation or digestive health or brain fog or things like that. But I think you'll agree with me as we go through these slides that Kahiki has put together, that these are things that we've grown up with. It's the way that we think about food, believe about it, what we decide is good or bad, the way we judge ourselves, and all of that is just as important as everything else we've been talking about in these classes. So just like every other class, Kahiki's going to get us started, and then I've got some things to show you in the mid break, and then we'll go back to her and she'll finish us off. So Kahiki, why don't you go ahead and get started?
Let's do this. This one hits close to home for me. You just heard me say my upbringing, I'm Hawaiian, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with that culture or not, but food is not necessarily used as a way to nourish, right? But we do celebrate culturally. So we're going to talk about different influences we've had growing up, and that is going to be very important to remember when we're talking about our relationship with food, because that's where it started. Okay. And so I think both of you know from being with us several sessions now, I was 60 pounds overweight at one point because I ate that way. I didn't know how to nourish myself, but I ate the way that I was shown traditionally and culturally. That's what I was doing, but it wasn't serving me well. And so we're going to uproot some of those beliefs around food, cultural beliefs around food as well. It's important that we go there to understand, why do we reach for the foods that we do? And also, I want to remind you that on our health journey, which is also a healing journey, there is no guilt or shame. Okay? I invite you to be curious. Instead of feeling guilt or shame about anything, we are getting curious about ourselves and why we believe and feel the way about food that we do. Okay, so really, most food struggles are not about food. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We're actually going to talk about healing your relationship with food. And part of that is also healing your relationship with you. So this is where you're going to get a taste of my minor in psychology as well, because truly these worlds are so intertwined. And I remind you that food alone is not the issue or the solution. Okay, it's only part of the picture. We often blame the food, but it's our relationship with food that needs the healing. Okay. So your thoughts, this is a very important piece to get. And this blew my mind when I learned this. And now when I eat, I can't help but remember this. And I hope you take this away too. Your thoughts are never just thoughts, because they become chemicals, also known as hormones, neurotransmitters, in your body. Thoughts are that powerful if we let them sit with us long enough. Okay, so your thoughts about food can actually influence how well you do or don't metabolize the food that you're eating. Your thoughts also affect digestion, hormones, inflammation, your mood. Okay, weight gain or weight loss is actually your body's chemical reaction to the foods you eat. But beyond that, it's also your body's chemical response to your thoughts about the foods that you're eating and stress, right? And sometimes stress isn't related to the food you're eating. All influence the chemicals going on in your body. So put it this way, you can eat the healthiest meal on the planet, but if you're thinking negative or stressful thoughts and in a state of what they call sympathetic nervous system dominance, okay, where we're stressed, we're releasing cortisol, you release chemicals that actually cause the digestion of your food to go down. And your fat storage metabolism will go up. That's how powerful our thoughts are around food. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, who here has experienced fatigue or indigestions or cravings or an upset stomach when they're emotional or anxious? It's real, right? Anybody that has anxiety says, oh yeah, for sure, I've experienced that. But you don't even have to have anxiety to have experienced any of these things. Okay? So let's go further with it. This is, you guys remember how I get a little nerdy and a little sciencey at least once. And I have to because I'm trying to teach you your body. Our bodies, again, we are walking miracles. And the more you understand your body, the better you can support it. So when you hear about the gut-brain connection, also known as the gut-brain axis, this visual, I hope you remember, okay? Because this is what it actually looks like in your body. The left image will show you the network of nerves. This is what it's talking about. It's the two, when you hear gut-brain connection or the gut-brain axis, it's that. It's the network of nerves that go from your brain all the way down to your gut. And it's a two-way street. Your brain can communicate to your gut can communicate to your brain. Okay? And your mind actually communicates with your digestive organs. And your gut can send neurotransmitters to the brain impacting mood. For example, serotonin. Serotonin is one of your big happiness and well-being hormones. It's also a neurotransmitter. So that there's an example of the communication between it. Okay. So the reason I show you this is changes in our gut can affect the production and balance of these said neurotransmitters like serotonin. And then our thoughts, now if we're going from the brain down, our thoughts and feelings about our food that we eat are relayed and goes back down to our gut. And it can make us feel anxious, uneasy. It can make us feel nauseous. It's a two-way street and it's very powerful. Okay, so within, a lot of this happens in the lower part of the brain. That's where the network is connected, the network of the nerves. Okay, and you can see it there on the left side. Now, if you look on the right side, the hypothalamus, that is the part of your brain where our emotions and thoughts are actually converted into a reaction, a physiological response. So the gut-brain connection is so very real. And there you see how it works. So your brain speaks to your gut and your gut speaks to your brain via this network of nerves that you see there. So the idea is we want to be in what's called a parasympathetic state, which is the opposite of a stressed state. So again, the stressed is sympathetic state. Parasympathetic state is when we feel safe, it's when we feel grounded, and digestion and healing is then activated. So now you can say you have seen the actual brain-gut or brain-gut axis connection. Now you know how it works in your body. Okay. But now I want to go into, oh, it's skipping ahead on me. How deprivation is not the answer. You've heard me say this before. Because again, it's not about shame and it's not about guilt. So no amount of willpower can override or battle against our biology long term. And what I mean by that is if you look at what I have listed here, these are some of the ways we try to work against our biology in the name of weight loss. And mind you, I absolutely have compassion for those trying to lose weight, feeling desperate to do so. Been there, done that. I used to yo-yo diet before I knew what I was doing. I get it. But every time we do that, you got to keep in mind that we're making a trade. And usually we end up on the negative when we make those trades. So when we do severe caloric restriction, be it a diet, be it GLP-1 shots, and no guilt here, by the way, but there is a trade being made. And what I see often, and what is the science as well, is that when we have severe caloric restriction, we increase cravings. And then we not only just not any cravings, we actually crave foods high in fat, carbs, sugar, and salt. That's our biology working. It's saying, hey, I'm not getting what I need. So now I'm going to look for more high calorie foods. And that's why we crave those foods. That's why we start to reach for those things. Okay. And then there's an abundance of evidence showing restrictive dieting leads to an impaired metabolism. We cannot really lose weight without a healthy metabolism. We need that to be working for us. So a lot of times these diets and or whenever restrict calories, be it a diet or the shots, once again, for long term, we can impair our metabolism, which is why when people come off these diets or shots, they gain the weight back, and it gets harder and harder to lose because now your metabolism is not working at 100% anymore. So a third, the statistics is a third of dieters end up gaining more weight than their original weight. Then when you have weight cycling, so we do, like when back in the day, I yo-yo dieted, that's weight cycling. You lose, you gain, you lose, you gain. That's actually really hard on our hormones and our blood pressure and our heart rate, our blood sugar, our insulin. And then studies have also shown that dieting, this is one of the most important parts. It's significantly associated with greater anxiety and depression. So when you don't get these very important nutrients like amino acids, like you'd get enough protein, your mental health will take a hit. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and they are a requirement for mental health. So all these things take hits when we deprive ourselves. And at the end of the day, your biology will win. It will override. And it'll say, I'm not getting enough of whatever this is, whatever the nutrient deficiency is, and it'll make you crave it. And meanwhile, all these other things take a hit. So I try to warn my clients, I get the reason why you have the desire for the weight loss. It's not fun feeling that way, feeling uncomfortable in your body. I understand that. But it's never worth trading short-term weight loss for your long-term health and longevity. It needs to take time for a reason. So you can do it the right way and your body can adjust in due time. And your mental health will be stronger for it. It builds you mentally as well when done that way. So now I want to look at how we look at foods. Okay, so some of these food myths, they're often loud. Anytime a statement is made really loud and assertive, I always question it. I'm naturally that person anyway, but you should question everything. Honestly. And these are just some of the common ones I have heard over the years. You've probably heard some of these too. Carbs are bad. All sugar is bad. Weight loss is just calories in, calories out. Eggs raise cholesterol. Fats equals weight gain. Milk is the best source for calcium. Have you heard any of these? Sound familiar? Yeah, they've all been the highlight at one point or another, right? In weight loss culture. But cultural conditioning, dieting lies, and how they shape our psyche, it is important that let's dissect these, okay? Let's just go right into it. Because here's the reality. Here's the truth. Complex carbs are actually fuel for our brain, kidneys, and heart. Sugar in its natural form provides us with disease-fighting micronutrients. Weight loss and true sustainable health is about the quality of those calories, not quantity. So the focus is in the wrong place. Eggs are actually really healthy, and it's the trans and saturated fats that are the main concern. But new science has actually showed us that eggs are also associated with less heart disease and obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cognitive decline, because it's not just the protein, you're also getting the healthy fats in it as well. And then you also have healthy fats, which are essential for optimal brain function, heart health, hormone health, and to reduce inflammation. And then lastly, there are many excellent non-dairy calcium sources with additional benefits. For example, collard greens, like spinach and kale. Also salmon and sardines, poppy and chia seeds, almonds and rhubarb. Did you know those also have a good amount of calcium in them? So even though we're growing up, we were taught, drink your milk. You got to get your calcium, make your bones strong. And now we know more. So it's important we evolve with our nutrition and what's out there and not limit ourselves. It's actually freeing. The more you learn, the more everything is not so black and white, and you can expand, and it can be guilt-free. So this is a perfect place for me to turn this over to Andrea. She's going to show us some examples of what I'm talking about.
So she was talking about healthy fats and all these sources of all these great nutrients. This recipe actually came up in one of our previous classes this year, and it's the chocolate avocado pudding or mousse. So I'm showing you this recipe. I wanted to go into this particular recipe for a couple reasons. One is, like she was just saying, these beliefs or things that we've been told at different times of our life that eating fat is bad. You're going to gain weight if you eat fat. That was a huge piece all through the 80s and 90s. And then, so avocados are bad for you, or that chocolate has too much sugar and sugar is bad for you. So I wanted to show you how to make something super simple. There's only 6 ingredients in this, and it starts with the avocado. So avocados are a really great source of fat. They're extremely high in fiber as well. Fiber, which helps us create the bulk that goes through our system, and it picks up the waste along the way. It helps clean out our excess hormones. Avocados are really an incredible superfood, actually. And then I've got cacao powder, a little vanilla. I have a little bit of almond milk, maple syrup, and salt. And that is pretty much everything that goes into this recipe. So and it goes right into the food processor as well. So I have 2, and then Kahiki, if you'll type these into the chat for me, I'll also put them in the email for you tomorrow. But it is 2 avocados, and avocados vary in size. Mine are a pretty typical medium size. And so in the recipe, I'm going to give you a little bit of a range when it comes to the rest of the ingredients, because this is going to end up being a little bit to your own taste. And like, just say if you had 2 little tiny avocados, you don't need as much sugar or as much vanilla, things like that. So you just scoop the avocados right into your food processor. And then the next one is, it's 6 to 8 tablespoons of maple syrup. That is all the sweetener I need to use in here. So you could start with 6, and then once you have everything in there, give it a taste and see if it's sweet enough. Again, if you've got really big avocados, you might go more towards the 8 tablespoons. Now, this cocoa powder, basic unsweetened cocoa powder, but I'm actually doing a mix. I have part of this Conquer You cacao. This is actually a good friend of ours here in Utah. It has a bunch of mushrooms in it, the adaptogenic mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, shiitake, reishi, which are really great for brain fog and mental energy, immunity, things like that. So I've got a half and half. I can give you guys a link to that product as well. So the cacao powder is around 6 tablespoons, 6 to 7 tablespoons. So you can start with 6. I'm going to put a splash of vanilla. This is a vanilla that I've been making myself. If you don't want to use a vanilla that has alcohol in it, especially because you're not cooking this, there are vanillas that are made, they're not called extract, they're called like vanilla syrup, and they have a little bit of sugar in them instead. You could also put a fresh vanilla bean in there, or you can find vanilla powders too. This is just dried vanilla. There's no sugar or anything in this. And then you always need a little bit of salt. Every food needs a little salt to kind of activate those flavors, especially chocolate. You might not think that, but chocolate needs a little salt to activate those flavors. And then I have a little bit of almond milk because this probably is going to need a little thinning. It's probably going to be really thick when I get it started. So you just put the lid on and you just start processing it. Okay, and I can tell it's still not quite moving. So you see, I had 4 tablespoons in here, but I'm just putting a little bit in at a time because I don't want to thin this up too much, but I just want to get it to where it's moving. And you can see that's pretty much it for an avocado mousse. Really, really simple. It's going to taste better once it is sat a little bit and it's let the flavors meld in there. The cocoa powder is strong enough that you're not going to taste any avocado. And if you do, then you go a little bit more with the other ingredients. I'm going to give it a little taste here real quick. And to me, it tastes like dark chocolate. I would want a tiny bit more sweetness to bring it a little closer to like a milk chocolate. But it's pretty close. It's pretty close right there. So I would just put it into a covered container, something with a lid, and let it sit in the fridge for a couple hours. It's going to taste better. There you go. It's going to taste better once it is sat in the fridge and got a little bit cold. So that is just like chocolate pudding. Like, to look at it, you wouldn't know that this isn't full of heavy cream and a bunch of sugar. All it was maple syrup and a really good quality cocoa powder. So that is my avocado mousse. So again, I know Kahiki just gave you those measurements. I got all of them, right? You got all of them from me. And just go with the range. Again, like, start at the 6 tablespoons, and then you can always add a little bit more until it gets to the right flavor for you. And again, depending on how many avocados you have, this will last. I wouldn't leave it in the fridge longer than maybe 3 or 4 days. The avocado will start to oxidize a little bit, and you will start tasting that avocado through the chocolate at some point. But I don't know why you would let it sit that long. If you've made this, like, you're going to want to eat it. And, but like, just those 2 avocados, I would say that's maybe 3 or 4 conservative servings. 2 avocados is a lot. I think each avocado has about 9 grams of fiber. But if you can eat about an avocado a day, then that would be 2 servings. Okay. I want to talk to you about another recipe. I'm not going to demonstrate this, but I just want to show it to you because there are so many health benefits to cocoa. Is such a great antioxidant, especially when you haven't paired it with a bunch of sugar, and we didn't heat it, which is kind of nice. that this is unheated, so you're going to get way more of those antioxidants in there. We used a unrefined sugar. Maple syrup has so many great nutrients in its own as well. The other form of chocolate that I want to talk to you about are cacao nibs, and that's what's in this picture. This is a cacao smoothie. And if you like chocolate, if you've got a sweet tooth and chocolate just satisfies that sweetness, plus you're giving yourself, like if you have a craving, it sometimes it does not work to just ignore it. At some point, you're going to dig into something not quite as healthy, and we're going to go right back into those cycles of not feeling good about ourselves. And then are we going to punish ourselves? Are we going to restrict ourselves? So what are those super healthy forms of something sweet that we can have that also makes us feel good? Cacao nibs are one of those things. So this is a recipe. I'm going to send this to you in the email tomorrow, but this is a very similar. It's a cup of any kind of milk you want. I love using hazelnut milk. 3 tablespoons of these cacao nibs, which is what you see on the table in that picture. You can either use maple syrup, agave nectar, or a couple dates because it's all going into your blender. A pinch of salt, because like I said, chocolate always needs a little bit of salt, a little bit of vanilla, and then this is a really great flavor. This is actually, I call it my Mexican cacao smoothie. I put a little cinnamon in there, and then half of a frozen banana. And all of this goes in your blender. The cacao nibs are chocolate in its natural form. Nothing has been removed yet. Like if you were to take a cacao pod off of the tree, this is what would be inside. And so you're getting all of the nutrition, the fat, the antioxidants, you're getting all of it together. And when I make this, especially if you have an afternoon slump, I get so much energy from this. Plus, like, it's a happy endorphin feeling, right? Because that chocolate, it's actually filling because you got all the fiber and the fat that are in the cacao nibs. So I highly recommend this recipe if you do have a sweet craving. And kind of as we're talking about this particular topic in this class, we're talking about the way we feel about food. Food also affects our mood. And this is definitely, I think both of these are one of those like happy mood boosting kind of recipes that you don't have to feel bad about eating. There's nothing bad in them. In fact, you're giving yourself like all kinds of wonderful nutrients in them, all the magnesium and the zinc and all of these great, the polyphenols and stuff. So I love that smoothie. So I hope if chocolate is your thing, I think you will love this, and it goes right in your blender.
Yeah, you had us at chocolate a long time ago, okay? We were just hanging on the whole time after. Safe to say, ladies.
Yeah.
But Faye asked if you have cookbooks. I actually have 2 of her cookbooks, and you guys are amazing. I put the link in there if you guys want to check it out. If somebody is looking for treats like this, like healthier treats, would that be your snacks cookbook, Andrea, or which one would you point them to?
Yeah, right now I have a small cookbook, which is just a snacks cookbook, and it's half savory, half sweet. And there's
Mhm.
about 17 total recipes in there. Right now, what I am working on, and it's funny because Kahiki and I were just talking about this, I'm working on a master cookbook of everything that I do. And I'm going to separate the sweets into its own. And so that's the one I've started editing first. I'm going to separate that from the savory. So yeah, so bigger ones are coming soon. Maybe
I'm not the only one excited about it based on the comments, so.
I know the sweet one. I'm thinking the sweet one. I'm absolutely like thinking by fall. The other one was probably going to be after Christmas because it's so much bigger. But yeah, but you can at least get a sampling of what I do in the snacks cookbook. I have a Thanksgiving little cookbook too. Again, it's only about 20 or so recipes. But thank you for asking.
You guys, in her Thanksgiving cookbook, I did her purple sweet potato pie. Unreal. Unreal. And everything is dairy and gluten free, which is one of the reasons I love her too. But yeah, I'm a fan. I fangirl Andrea as well. She's not just a friend. I've
Thank
actually
you.
been nudging her to do these cookbooks that she's talking about. So I'm excited.
Finally doing it.
Yes.
All
Oh,
right.
that goes perfect with the next slide I was going to go into. Am I okay to share, Andrea? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so she actually just showed you some of these foods. Um, and you'll notice dark chocolate's on there. So as far as feel-good foods, you've heard food becomes mood, right? And the reason being is good food cultivates good mood. And I showed you previously how you are releasing hormones and neurotransmitters and those chemicals in your body, be it good or bad, depending on what you eat, right? So these are some of the top foods. If you want to boost your mood, go ahead and screenshot this. I'm sure Andrea will include it in the follow-up email. These are major mood boosters. And if you notice, she combined it, a couple of them there. You have dark chocolate and avocado with the chocolate mousse that she made. I love that combination. As she was doing that, as a nutritionist, I'm also like, how can I jazz it up? She thinks the same way too. Anytime I see a dish, I'm like, ooh, how can I make it healthy? How can I jazz it up a little more and get the most nutritional bang for my buck? That's always how I'm thinking. So, for example, you could even add things into that mousse like raspberries because you see on their berries, right? The antioxidants in berries, that's mental health too. That's anti-inflammatory. Dark chocolate is one of the highest foods and antioxidants in the world. That when you hear antioxidants, I want you to think that's anti-inflammatory. Same with avocado. Now you have the omega-3 fatty acids, right? You have the healthy fats, very anti-inflammatory. Also, when you hear omega-3s, that you're feeding your brain. Healthy fats is brain food. So of course it's going to give you a boost there. Combine the three and you're not only getting a mood boost, you're also getting anti-inflammatory nutrients into you. So anytime you can prioritize these foods, do it. Combine them, even better, right? So if you guys already got your screenshot, again, I know Andrea's probably gonna include that in the follow-up email. But I definitely wanted to highlight those foods. And when you see lean protein on there, I think we all know what that means, right? Chicken and turkey, eggs are on there. That's giving your brain the amino acids required for the neurotransmitters that are required for a healthy brain. Meaning, if somebody has anxiety or depression, you better believe I'm prioritizing lean, healthy proteins for that reason. So the chemicals in their brains or the neurotransmitters are working in their favor. Okay, sometimes there's outside factors, yes. But where you can influence that chemistry in your brain, this is where. These are those foods. Okay? So now we're going to go a little deeper. Buckle up because we are going to change the narrative. And if you look on the left-hand side, I guarantee some of these you've said to yourself or you've thought it, you've heard somebody say it. Okay? We need to change this narrative. And maybe we heard these things said by our mothers. Maybe our mothers said these things to themselves in front of us. That's where it began for us. Whoever that influence was for us in our lives, that's started to shape your internal narrative around food and yourself. Please hear that. What I'm saying is, you weren't flawed. You never were. Maybe we just weren't demonstrated correctly what a healthy self-image looked like. I like to say self-awareness because that's taking it the next level, which is what it really is. Okay? So instead of looking at food as good or bad, which a lot of us do, let's shift it to food is nourishment and energy. Or restrictive, deprivation, it's the only way to lose weight. What about I'm prioritizing foods that love me back? What about instead of I slipped up and failed, so what is one more bite? I already spiraled, right? Instead, say I can enjoy an occasional treat and still have balance. Instead of restricting calories to be skinny, choose nourishing quality calories over punishment. Instead of needing food for comfort, we'll choose nutrients that support the life you deserve to live. When you start to say things like, I'll never look like that anyway, shift and say, I am building my healthiest, strongest version of myself. And that is unique to you. I remind you that. And I remember feeling this one too. I have no idea how to eat healthy. There's so much information out there, right? Instead, stay curious and say, I'm listening to my body so I can give it what it needs. It quiets a lot of the external noise when you start to do it that way. Your body will let you know. And then instead of control, restraint, and guilt, shame, let go of the shame and honor yourself with nourishment. You've always been worthy. So when you start to say the things, I am not worthy, I remind you that health is your birthright and you are worthy of it. And where a lot of us don't manage our stress and we let it build up, give yourself permission every day, even if just for 10 minutes, to rest and reset. Change the chemicals going on in your body. And then instead of neglecting our mental health and pushing ourselves till we are depleted and running on fumes, focus on those foods. Think of the last list that I showed you, those feel-good foods. Eat to thrive physically and mentally. And then lastly, instead of quick fixes, we are here now for sustainable habits and longevity. These are the shifts that we need to start making, okay? And it's important to remember that, again, not only did we first pick up on these narratives by somebody in our life that was an influence for us, and maybe we started to believe some of these. When we're able to pause before, as these thoughts come up, that pause again is power. Remember the P's. There is power in the pause, and it allows you to remove yourself from getting caught up in the thought, and you can separate yourself, and it's almost like you're a third person looking in on your thought and saying, okay, I see this thought is there. It's creeping up again. That doesn't make it true just because you have the thought. Exclamation mark there. That's how you start to take your power back. It's awareness. Aware that you're having the thought, but it doesn't make it true just because you have the thought. It came from somewhere, yes. That's part of the awareness. But now you are aware, and hopefully you do pause now when you start to notice those thoughts creep up. But there are other influences, and they're very real. I gave you an example of what the cultural and family influences in the Hawaiian culture. And you know, what's funny is they tease me when I go back, oh, you're too skinny. And I'm actually normal weight, you guys. I'm not skinny. I actually find it insulting when I'm called skinny because I work towards being strong. So really though, it's important that we can have foods that we indulge in, right? Culturally, a lot of us do. But it's very important that majority of those foods love us back, that treat our body the way it deserves to be treated. So do any of you find yourself in this position where it's a cultural or family situation? Think of holidays. Or maybe that's social for you, very similar, right? And the facts are, the research is there that we tend to choose higher calorie foods if it induces positive feelings in others. So somebody may offer us something, a friend, family member. So we'll a lot of times do it to people please, not necessarily for us. Okay. Social pressure to eat like everyone else. Absolutely.
Family. Like not my immediate family. Don't worry, mom's clear. It's not her. I have a gunny inside of the family, so when I visit my aunts, they always call me I'm too small. I'm too skinny. Like so I relate to that and they're like, why don't you eat enough? Or like I don't eat a lot. And so they're like, what's wrong with you?
It's so real. Or another one is who here was raised to clean their plate? Don't leave anything on your plate.
Got that from that side too.
Yep, yep. Same. And it was almost like shame if you wasted food. So what
Hmm.
that taught me was I had to finish it no matter what. So what was I doing? I was overeating at a young age. So these are some of the cultural family things that I'm talking about. Yes, it sounds very relatable. We're on the same page there when I go back to Hawaii, like I said. But I also, in a non-judgmental way, in an awareness way, I noticed that over there, a lot of them are dealing with inflammatory conditions, be it gout. Gout is one of the main ones they come to me for. Heart disease, that's another big one. Type 2 diabetes. So I take it if you consider the source, again, non-judgmental, but consider the source, right? I don't want that. And I see right in front of me the direct correlation of the foods that are eaten and then the outcome. And so I see it through that lens. Like I love them, but I don't want that outcome. And yes, it's okay to indulge. You saw what I said before. I like the 80/20 rule. 80% of the time you're in a place of health and you're eating foods that love you back. 20%, the one-offs, you have treats here and there. That's okay. That is okay. And you need to give yourself permission without guilt or shame. But that's real. And then, of course, stress. We talked about that. Now you got stress cortisol going through your body, and that we saw what that does. Emotional. Okay, so both positive and negative emotions can trigger overeating, by the way. It's not always just negative. And then you have cognitive. So that's when we start to crave those high sugar, high fat, salty foods, okay? Because they give us instant reward and those chemicals in our brain, they give us the instant fix. They literally are a drug in that case. Biological, that's when calorie intake is too restrictive, right? And your biology has to overcompensate. That's when our body goes into starvation mode. Your body no longer trusts that it's going to get what it needs from you. So it's overriding what you're trying to do to survive. And then economic, this is real, you guys. In fact, I do feel for some of my clients, they say, I know I need to eat this way. I cannot afford to eat all the things that I need to eat. That is real. I'm going to recognize that. I say, do the absolute best with what you can now. It all counts. You don't have to go out and buy every super healthy thing organic to be healthy. Do what you can now and move your body, manage your stress, get good sleep. You're doing pretty dang good if you're doing those things. So let's go into and now we're breaking it down into psychological blocks. People pleasing goes a lot with the social and the family and the cultural. I've experienced that. Like I said, I felt guilt if I didn't eat what was being given to me and if I didn't clean my plate. But who pays for that? My health. When I people please, my health took a hit. And so at some point, that takes us to the next one. You've got to create boundaries for you. In fact, in scenarios like that, and this is how I've had to retrain myself and break free from some of those cultural beliefs, they need my example of health. Your families need so badly your examples of health. And in many cases, you're the only example. I am in my side. They need your example. So that actually, when I started to shift my mentality that way, I stopped feeling guilty and I stopped people pleasing. And they would get curious. They notice, by the way, if you make these changes, they notice. They'll tease you, but then they'll start to ask questions. So stick with it because you are being their example that they need, whether or not they want to admit it. And then stress, that's physical, that's mental. It is all the things. It is so important, right? We got to control the cortisol. And then labeling foods good or bad. When we label something as bad, guess what? Our desire for the forbidden fruit goes up. It is obnoxious our brains work that way, but it does. And so this is why I say give yourself grace and do the 80-20 rule. 20% of the time, yes, have your one-off treat. The second you say you can't have that, that's bad, you're going to be thinking about that nonstop. And then when you do finally give in, because eventually we do need a treat here and there, then you're going to have guilt and shame attached to it. It's different if you give yourself permission and make room for it, knowing that you're going to go right back on track. So I always plan. You've heard me say this before. It's worth repeating. In my meal plans that I do for clients, they get a treat meal once a week. They don't even have to tell me what it is. I do have to tell them keep it within a 30-minute sitting. That was a problem. And before, it's usually in the middle of the day, not before you go to sleep, and before for breakfast and after for dinner, you are getting loaded up with nutrient dense foods. It creates a balance, and your treat is right in the middle of that. It can be done. I'm actually encouraging you to allow yourself that guilt-free treat at least once a week. You have my permission, please do it. And then the self-sabotage, it's real. Just like I said, when we don't allow ourselves some grace there, then we feel guilt and shame when we do what we think is bad, right? So it's a shift. Your relationship with food starts with your relationship with you, very much so. This is really where it is. So let's talk about you. How do we change those behaviors? Now that you're aware of where they come from, here's how you shift them. You invite in more compassion, not shame. Just like I invite you to bring in more healthy foods that naturally filter out the unloving foods. Same shift. Bring in more compassion, filter out shame and guilt. Okay, so the first strategy is stop, drop, and feel. This is awareness. Instead of fighting or resisting, I want you to ride out the wave of the craving. Give it space. Get curious. What is this coming from? Is it an emotion? What is that emotion? Where is that coming from? What is my unmet need right now? Because I'm reaching for food thinking that's what it is when it's deeper than that. Stop, drop, and feel. And then avoid eating in settings that are both stressful, because again, remember, your environment and how you feel, those emotions influence the way you metabolize food. So avoid a stressful environment if you can help it. If you're at work, step outside. Even better, you're getting sun. If you can sit somewhere where there's green, even better. Now you're bringing down cortisol. Okay? So we really do need to unplug more often, and that's a little way we can in a work environment. So not just avoid eating in a stressful environment, but also distractive eating. When we are just hurrying and eating, we are not actually metabolizing it as well and digesting it as well. Savor every bite. Go beyond that. Appreciate the nutrients and what it's doing for your body in every bite. That is how you begin to build a healthier relationship with food. You're appreciating what it's doing for you. That's mindful, intuitive eating. Listen to your body. Drop the harsh food rules like we were just talking about and tune in and notice when you're satisfied. Stop there. When we pay attention, we'll actually know when those cues are. But if we're distracted, eating in a car, eating in front of TV, eating in front of a computer, which I've had to catch myself from doing many times, if we're not distracted, we can better hear our body, tune into our body and its needs, is what I'm telling you. So here are some steps you can take. So this is a recap. Okay, so again, eat in a low stress, non-distracting environment. Stop, drop, and feel. Set up the environment for you to win to begin with, right? And then use curiosity, not judgment. What is the root cause of this emotion? Why do I feel like I need sweet foods right now? Let it up. Address that unmet need because it'll just keep coming back in different forms of unhealthy, unloving food. Address the need. And sometimes that means getting out a food diary or journal. Okay. What is my unmet need? What emotion is really asking to be seen and felt right now? Slow down and intuitively eat. Tune into your body. Savor and appreciate every nourishing bite. Add, don't restrict. Add more loving foods, and it'll slowly filter out the unloving foods. But it's never a harsh, I can't do this, I can't have that. That will help you build trust in the foods that you eat and in you. You'll begin to trust that you will make the best choices for you because you are now tuning in. It's also better for your mental health as well to do it that way. So it's a shift to nourishment. It is what I call the nourishment mentality. So when you're in a state of love, your body actually, here's the cool part, your love can heal you. Because think of the hormones that you're releasing in that state. So when you're in a state of love, your body releases those feel-good hormones, oxytocin, endorphins, right? That activate your body's self-repair mechanisms. Your love literally heals you. That is powerful to remember. The opposite can be said too, right? If we are constantly hating on ourselves, think of those chemicals being released. Your best medicine is your self-compassion and your love. Before any nutrients I can tell you to eat, you are more than a number on the scale. And anywhere healing is present, so is love. So invite in more compassion, not shame. Confidence in food and in yourself begins with awareness, not control. It is awareness. And awareness is your first step to food freedom. It no longer controls you in every action once you're aware of why you're reaching for those things. You take back the reins when you're aware. Notice when you eat from a place of love and appreciation and how you feel in that moment. And how it feels when you address that unmet need. To nourish you. It's both mental and physical nourishment when you do it that way. And each morning, if I could leave you with one last suggestion, and this was pivotal for my self-awareness, for my self-esteem and my confidence on my health journey. It was pivotal. Was my mirror work. It's more than just affirmations. It's looking at yourself in the eyes in the mirror and saying things like, I love me unconditionally as I am right now. I meet me where I am right now. Every morning. And if you know Louise L. Hay, amazing author about these kind of things, self-love, highly recommend if that's where you need to go for your healing. She said, if it feels uncomfortable to do, that means you need to do it multiple times a day until it just becomes second nature. Till you can walk by a mirror and say, dang, girl, you're looking good today. That's where I want you to be. Because now you're seeing yourself clearly. Like, dang, you're a boss lady. You've got this. That's what I want. The messages I want you to be saying to yourself when you go by the mirror and see yourself every day. If you need to write the affirmation that resonates the most with you on your mirror, do it. So it's a reminder every time you see yourself in the mirror. Multiple times a day. That, like I said, life-changing for me. And that's where the real work is, ladies. So every morning, do your mirror work and also find one thing that your body allows you to do and thank it out loud for doing that. Gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to begin to shift your perception little by little. So I leave you with that. Again, your self-love, self-compassion is your most powerful medicine.
Well, what Kahiki just had on that last slide is our next class here. I know the two of you are already signed up, so you know next month we're getting into meal prep. That one I'm really excited about. I mean, that is something that I use in my life where I take a day every week and I bulk prep foods for myself. Just today, I took something out of the freezer. Well, I took it out yesterday, which it was marinated chicken that I had put in the freezer, and it sat overnight in the fridge, and I put it in the oven today. I'm so thankful that was in the freezer. So we're going to talk about stuff like that next time. Really, really excited. If you have specific questions you want us to go over next month, certainly shoot them in an email to us, or type them in right now. We'll make sure that we cover those if you've got specific things in your life that you want us to help problem solve. And then tomorrow we start our next gut reset and detox. So that's really an exciting program that we do. We help people who need a little extra assistance, whether it's kicking sugar, caffeine, like just kind of cleaning up the junk foods. And, as Kahiki says, like those foods that maybe we crave, but we do not feel good on, they do not love us back. So this is a 2-week program where we help people get off of those foods. And it's a whole foods cleanse. So if you're interested, if it's not something you're ready for, because we do start tomorrow, follow us on Instagram. Watch what we're doing on Instagram. I'm the holistic chef on Instagram, and Kahiki is Eat Clean Be Whole on Instagram. That would be a great place to see what we're doing. And you asked about like recipes or a cookbook. I share a ton of my recipes on Instagram as well. And if you're more of a Facebook person, you can see it all there too. If there are any questions about tonight's topic, go ahead and either unmute yourself or throw it in the chat. We have a few minutes that we could address any questions.
Yeah, so honestly, great class. I only have one question more regarding the pudding.
Yeah.
I know I've told you guys that like I'm allergic to avocado. I found out from my allergist that I'm not allergic to avocado, but I'm allergic to pollen, and every single plant has a protein in it that mimics pollen's chemical makeup, which confuses my system. And because avocado is such a high power food, it has more of it than anything else. But I'm technically can heat avocado before eating it in
Okay.
order to use it. So I was wondering if I heated avocado and blended it up and then used it in the mousse, would it still be okay?
Would it still be okay? Do you know how hot you have to get it?
Um, I have to ask. I don't remember.
Because I'm kind of wondering, because like a very light heating, I think could be fine. But because what you're saying, this is new. I have not heard of this. I have heard of every kind of intolerance. My niece cannot have most fruit. She can't eat raw carrots, but she can eat cooked carrots. So, but I don't. She's never explained it to me to the level that you're explaining it. So I'm wondering if it's a similar thing.
Yeah, well, it's in every fruit and vegetable, so it might be.
Yeah, yeah. So now I'm curious, what else is going on for you that you'd be that sensitive to pollen? I mean, it's
Honestly, I'm in the same boat as I thought I've heard everything. I've
yeah,
heard
like what?
something similar related to more gut issues. But yeah, that's the first I've heard with the pollen in the avocado. But here's what I'm thinking too. I mean, first of all, I would want to get to the root cause of that, right? But also, that just has me so curious. But for the time being, as to what you can do, I don't know how avocado would do heated up, to be honest, because sometimes when you heat certain things up like avocado, it could very much change the chemical structure of it, and it may not set the way you want it to.
Well, I think it's gonna intensify the avocado flavor. So if you can get a little more information about maybe what temperature, because a very light heating might be fine. But if you've got to get it up, to like, I wouldn't think 350, in the oven. If it's almost like dehydrator temp is 180. If it's just a very light heating, then maybe it would become, but I think it's going to intensify the avocado flavor.
I'm also thinking for another substitute, Andrea. I'm trying to give it the same texture, maybe coconut yogurt, something like that. What are you thinking? If you were to give her an alternative.
Yeah, see, so to me, I would say maybe we skip this recipe altogether and you do the chocolate panna cotta that I just did recently, which is coconut milk, some of the same ingredients, the cocoa powder, coconut milk, and it uses a little gelatin as the thickener.
Okay.
Is gelatin's okay?
Yeah, I'm good with gelatin. Yeah.
See, like I would almost just think like skip the avocado. Maybe
Because, yeah, anytime something gives you your immune system a response like that, your immune system is releasing inflammatory cytokines. So that's not healing, right? Even though for anybody else, yes, avocado would be healing, but where you react to it, it's not healing for you. So until you figure out root cause, I'm with Andrea. I don't want you to do and eat anything, even if it's quote healthy, if it's not technically healthy for you while you're reactive to it. So that I would rather you shy away from avocado till that is figured out and use something, an alternative that's also healthy, but won't give you a reaction like that, an immune reaction. That's my take as a nutritionist. Because if I knew that was in your health history and I'm writing a meal plan for you, I would not have avocado in your meal plan at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then I'll probably check out the panna cotta recipe.
Yeah, I can throw that in my summary email tomorrow.
Yes, thank you.
That's a good recipe. The people who weren't here are going to get all kinds of information. Okay, you guys. All right. I hope this was a great evening for you guys. And we will see you next month.
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Good night.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.